Good afternoon, everybody. This is Angelo Otterbein. It is the last day of the month. Can't believe it. And excited, though. We have had a hugely busy month this year in terms of launching websites. I think that last count it was 50, close to 50. So congrats to everyone. You're certainly keeping me busy just writing and putting together the June launch blog. Lots to talk about. Today I'm going to focus on two websites. It was hard to pick among them all, but I like to just kind of keep it simple, focus on a couple and zero in on a handful of things that I think really work about these sites. Two schools on opposite sides of the world, and I'm just going to jump in first to Shanghai SMIC private school. So you will notice right away that from a bilingual website standpoint, this one just is right in front of that. So typically we have a little toggle at the top where you can sort of move from one language to the other. But I was intrigued by this, knowing that native English and Mandarin are an essential part of the program that they deliver and what families are expecting. This is a pretty neat way to do it, and I think it works. What's interesting about it is that this homepage, actually, the one I have in front of you is the initial presentation. But if you start to look around the site, and I just go into, say, one of the landing pages, what'll happen is so first of all, there's some nice things going on. Again, this is the first site I can think of where we've embedded both Mandarin or Chinese characters with English in one, not only in kind of the content, but also in the navigation, as opposed to, again, using a toggle. But what happens is, so you get some, in that sense, there's a lot of consideration in terms of how the site should work and look and behave, because you've got to now account for, multiple, kind of double of everything in a way. But in any case, when I go back to the homepage, I'm redirected to the English version. And here I get a slightly different homepage that isn't as complex, but notice that, I'm now in sort of the English only, native English only version, which is very convenient, obviously, because here I am in north of Baltimore, and I have access to the rest of the site in terms of the homepage presentation. And that also is really very well done, not well laid out. There are a lot of nice features here in terms of the school. This is a big independent school, international schools, I think 2,500, 2,700 students, so larger than most independent schools in the United States. So they have a lot to talk about. And these four, divisional areas of high school, early childhood, and elementary, combined with this notion of persons of character, I think is pretty cool. With these central values or identifiers, really works well. The overlays of color and black and white. This is just a nice panel, and if it's going to be hard to tell on this screen share, but as I scroll the panels, in some cases, not all of them, but in some cases, they kind of lock in on their own, and that's a neat user device. That way you don't have you're not scrolling and you're kind of in between panels. So nice presentation of news, and then the footer with a link to WeChat, your calls to action, some of the popular links, which is smart. So if I go to, for instance, Chinese track, it'll take me to, some really big, nice imagery. Here's the Mandarin, and then you can see now the language has completely swapped, and I'm in all Mandarin, which is pretty neat. And so this makes a lot of sense as far as how the site is working. This is just launched, so I know that they're still tweaking things, but pretty complicated on one hand, but from a user standpoint, makes a lot of sense in how they're evolving their website. So here I'm on the Mandarin version again. So nice work, and I know you're still refining things, but I'm really proud of this site, and I hope you are too. So now I'm over to Lawrenceville, and there's a lot to, one of the reasons I just narrowed it to 2 sites today was because there's so much to look at with the Lawrenceville School new website. It's not just an incredibly well-designed and beautiful homepage, but there's lots of interior designs, in many cases in the form of microsites that really stand apart, and even within the whole family of sites. So lovely entry in terms of house, Harkness, and heart. The Harkness table is one of the signature features of their the student experience in a way. They talk about the houses, and then they talk about the table, and really that's a kind of a way to explain how they think about teaching and learning in terms of the design of the table and the collaborative nature and the conversational style and the open format. So it's very important to the school, and they do a nice job. Some good messaging. You can see there's just some lovely design treatments, everything from these subtle lines and this integrated emblem, some beautiful photography. I mean, really stunning in terms of theater and outdoors and so forth. And then you've got this, lovely campus shot to one of their main buildings. So that's, from a homepage standpoint, really knocks it out of the park. But then as you start to dig in, I'll give you the most different example, and then we can go to a few others. But the Lawrenceville summer program site, or summer scholars rather, completely different as far as design and colors. And that makes sense because you really want a summer program microsite to be, to speak to that, not only that audience in terms of the kinds of students and, people who are, parents who are just looking for, a certain kind of experience that's outside of the academic year, but also just that it should be, fun and different and bright, and, it just should feel like the summer. So, they have a couple of ties in from the brand standpoint, but I think what's cool about it is that it is intentionally very unique, and yet it's still within the same instance of Composer, which is our content management system. So they can go in, update, the site we were just looking at, update the summer program site. They could even share content if they wanted to, if there were certain pieces of news or an announcement or even a calendar. They could have things happening in one central location, but the system supports the ability to do completely different designs via style sheets and all of that. So, love that. With the squirrel and Start Your Adventure, there's, a lot to that if you're familiar with the campus in terms of the squirrel. But if you sort of keep that in the back of your head, and you then go to, say, the giving site, and they have a major campaign, capital campaign going on. Here they're using targeted page pops to, encourage participation, but very different. This microsite, I think, is more in line, I guess, with the main parent website, but it definitely has its own identity. Some similar treatments, but some uniquenesses too in terms of some of the gradients and a little bit of the graphical components here and there. Tremendously ambitious goal, but they're very far along. They've got some incredible video. They've got this animated thermometer, so they are on their way to hitting their goal. And then further down, some important messaging from about the campaign and those who are really in charge of leading the campaign, and encouragement to give. So there's, even within this homepage, there's a lot to take note of. I think this is a nice use of Instagram, that's integrated with the website. It's not overwhelming. Encourages you to follow. Just really well put together. So that's the second microsite. Then if you were to go to the library, so libraries, often are just a single page on a website. Now this one's, I just remembered, is still being worked on, but it has, you can start to get a sense that it has its own look and feel, and they're beginning to put it together. But it's interesting to me that I think that it just sends a message that the library has so much going on that they really wanted their own presence, again tied to the main site, but with some uniquenesses as far as design. What I was thinking about was, let's see, where is it? I will find it, but maybe we can go to the athletics. And here's a very different microsite. So obviously athletics are extremely important, particularly for a boarding school, for families who can't necessarily come to the games, but are hearing about the athletics. So there's totally different design, very high energy, taking some chances graphically, some nice call outs, much deeper use of black, and the red just does a tremendous job with contrast, access to teams and rosters and updates and calendars. All this news, as these are tags tied to the news items so that they can then filter from within. So there's lots of things that can happen on the inside. That's great. And then you've got updates, different social media channels feeding the athletic site, and just big, bold, and it is big red, but they use these very modern devices, and I think it really plays out. But yet, it still has some ties into admissions, so it's not just for current parents, because prospective families, take serious interest in what the athletic program has to say, and how it will fit their child's needs. So just really neat seeing not only a different design, but even different navigation and layout and everything. Still, from a branding standpoint, it works together as one central site, but really explores some of the boundaries, or I guess tries to push the boundaries in terms of being a little more unique for areas that are very important in the school. I'm going to head into, just to give you a sense of not microsites, but some of the landing pages. This is the experiential learning page, and some moments here where you can go and explore more to that are outside of kind of traditional academics. Super cool travel program, outdoor classroom, explorations. They have this thing called the Big Red Farm, which is really fun. Sustainability, clubs and organizations. So just lots and lots to digest. And then they have this really neat program, which I had not heard of, but was looking at a little bit in envy, called the Gruss Center for Art and Design. And so it's just a really impressive center, I guess, where, with a singular focus, and, lots happening. There's this really neat video that kind of walks you through it, sort of maker space, but lots of creativity and things being built and developed, designed. So just a lovely idea, but just kind of going through it, you get this sense of creativity and innovation. So I understand why they made this decision to create its own microsite to talk about it, because there's a lot to cover. And like athletics, they've got its own, it has its own subnav, so that within this area, you really can explore it and stay focused on the center. So just a tremendous example and site overall, but each individual microsite is also worth checking out. So enormous effort. I know a ton of work went into this. Congratulations, Lawrenceville and Shanghai SMIC, and here's to kicking off July. So see you in a week.